Just thought I'd capture some video of me eating a peanut butter sandwich. Eating peanut butter sandwiches was a very important part of my childhood and adulthood. Relatively speaking, I had a happy childhood. If by happy childhood you mean I come from a comfortable home with loving parents, middle class, comfortable, that sort of thing. From a social standpoint, I had a pretty miserable childhood. When I think of happiness in childhood, I think of me reading a book while I was walking down the street. While I was trying to climb up a sliding board, I fell off. I'd take a book with me to recess. I'd sit in recess while the other kids were running around and read. I'd read at lunch. I'd read on the school bus. I'd read during class. The only thing I ever got in trouble for in school was reading non-school books during class and forgetting my homework. And once his teacher gave me a writing assignment because I forgot to take my lunchbox to the cafeteria one day. She wasn't even my teacher. Singing. I like being in shows. I like traveling to be in shows. I like being special. I mean, those things aren't stories. And when I think of childhood stories, it always highlights what a complete and utter nerd I was. Frightened of everything. Tended to cry easily. Was a hopeless goody two-shoes. And a know-it-all. My two best friends growing up, they lived across the street from me on either side. Meaning there were two streets going past my house, and on one side was the one, and on the other side was the other. Best friends. In quotes. Well, at school, the one ignored me because I was 2 years younger than her, and she couldn't be seen hanging out with someone 2 years younger than her, and the other one ignored me because I was a complete and utter nerd. And most of all, they hated each other. We couldn't play all together as one group because they absolutely couldn't stand each other. And they almost threatened not to come to my birthday party, my 9th birthday party, if the other wouldn't be there. Lucky for them, and lucky for the story, they did. My mother had recently gotten a book about kids' birthday parties. Big themed affairs with crazy going overboard suggestions. Actually, I'm not sure if the book involved crazy overboard suggestions or my parents just decided to go overboard. I'd chosen that year to have a medieval castle party, or a fairy tale castle party. Everyone who came to the party got lady-in-waiting hats, or I'm not really sure what the boys' hats were called, and a couple of my boy cousins even came in paper plate armor. We had dragon cake, castle ice cream, sword in the stone potatoes, jeweled grapes, which were sugared grapes, and they might have had a fancier name, but I forget what it was. I forget what the main course was. Beer and ale. My parents were in the middle of renovating our previously known as an attic. It was about a half floor over the house into a second story. So it had recently been cleaned out, but not yet turned into a proper living quarters. So they turned it into the interior of our castle. They built cardboard battlements around the stairwell, covered the walls with butcher paper, and painted individual bricks on them, individual windows, which you can't see in any of the pictures, and the stuff outside the windows, and family crests for every guest who came. There was a massive treasure hunt. There were 3 teams, and my parents planted 3 sets of clues all over the house, rather tricky riddles, that all led eventually to the treasure, Holy Grail, of sorts. Another couple of my cousins, who came from farther away, surprised me that day. They hadn't been on the guest list. But they surprised me that morning, hiding in the other room when I got home from CCD class. And I very cleverly said, "Wow, this is great timing, guys. You're just in time for my birthday party. You can come and stay at my birthday party." And they said, "Yeah, we know, that's why we're here." They ended up staying the whole weekend. The next day, we made a movie for our grandparents who had recently moved to Florida. It basically told the story of a little girl and her sister and her mother, whose grandparents had been banished to Florida by the evil queen who lived next door. My twin cousin Lindsay played both the main little girl and the evil queen because she was actually good, whereas the other two of us played all the bit parts since I spoke very softly and our other cousin just tended to yell. Which is ironic because we both went through and I went to a Broadway star phase, while the only one of us who was any good always wanted to be a teacher. I'm sorry I don't have any footage of this. To make up for me not having footage, here's a clip from a video made by children in my library the other day who are about approximately the same age. I think you'll get the basic idea of how our video went.
Wait, who knocked over that tower? Quack, quack. What is that door? Ah, you did it! What? I can pull out and blow it up!
It's definitely a highlight of my childhood. And I have lots of other highlights, but they're mostly medium and stupid things. I'm a children's book writer, and I look back on all those things and say, hey, that's great fodder for a story someday. Maybe I'm hopelessly optimistic, or maybe that's a good way to look at your life.
No. Random here!